What is going on, everybody? Hope you're all having a good Wednesday. BobbyFi here, flying solo. Sheets is out for his wife's birthday today. Hopefully that goes really well, and they have a great time, and we take care of business in the DFS streets. So we're going to get into it. I'm going to go game by game, but just like some overall slate stuff. There's no real weather to worry about. I'll just tell you it's really warm out here on the West Coast, like very unusual to be this warm. We'll get into that with the game a little later, where I think everybody's going to have some interest, including myself. And you're going to have some, because of it, I think some fairly chalky-ish hitting spots, but it won't be quite as bad as yesterday. The 10-gamer, which is a little bit big for a Wednesday, and the overall pitching is not my favorite. I'm going to bring Goldie's projections to the front of the list here. Usually I would bring Cheats also, but again, he's out today. And yeah, we've got some things that we just don't quite have a projection on because we're not 100% sure about some things. So Goldie will update this a little later, but I don't feel like this is anybody to feel completely safe with pitching wise. I think we're going to have to make some decisions. And I think yesterday we had real top end options and some low end options with huge upside. Today might be a little bit tougher. So as AJ says, how about them Dodgers? They're rolling right now. And yeah, we're going to get to that a little bit later. All right, I'm going to start off with Boston and New York, Houck and McGill. I don't think this is a spot where I'm going to end up doing that much. I don't mind if you wanted to tell me on either stack, but personally, I'm not really getting there. Like, it's a big stadium downgrade for Boston. McGill is capable enough. Houck is capable enough, obviously. I don't think I end up with anything here. If I did, it probably would end up being Houck. But again, it's just one of many names. So we're going to have to figure that out. All right, so moving over, I don't necessarily want to play Chalky Morton at this point in general. I usually like to play him at lower ownership, but it's hard to ignore this situation against Colorado. The strikeout upside is obviously there. I guess if you wanted to argue that the safe, probably the highest level of safety. And this is also going to be one of the most popular stacks as far as the Atlanta side goes. I'm totally good with the Atlanta stack. I don't know that I would want to make 5-mans at first look just because the ownership might be a little too high. Now, maybe if you're doing single entry, definitely okay with that. Just large field stuff, I probably won't want to do that. As of right now, I have Morton as the pretty clear top option, to be honest with you. But that's a little bit strange of a slate. I don't think we've said that all season long. So keep that in mind for what it's worth. The weather in Atlanta today. You have some wind that's sort of blowing across the field, sort of blowing in from left. Maybe a little tiny bit of a knockdown for the Braves. But they certainly are going to look like one of the better stacks pretty much no matter which way you slice it. So definitely have some interest there, but trying to hold off on the 5-mans in large field stuff, just because I think you're going to be running into a lot of other competition. All right, Pittsburgh and Chicago, and that means the first question is always, what does the weather say? So obviously we always talk about this. Chicago, they feel the effects of the wind a little bit more than any other stadium does. It's only 6 miles an hour, but it is blowing in. I like Imanaga quite a bit tonight. I'm going to go ahead and set him as a core. I think that we're going to end up with maybe 3 core pitchers, but I think Imanaga is pretty clearly one of the best options on the slate. Huge strikeout upside against this Pirates offense. And what do we have him out projected for strikeouts? Yeah, you've got him at 6.1. And I think that's a good enough number. So I definitely am interested in Imanaga here. Interestingly, I think I would get to the Cubs if it wasn't for just a little bit of weather, but maybe it's not bad enough to where I think they should at least be in consideration. Again, it's not as clear cut today. It's clear cut in one spot in LA, but it's not as clear cut everywhere else. So I'm just throwing out there that I think the Cubs are not on my board right now, but they may be by the end of the day. Do love the Imanaga play along with Morton. I think that's the chalk. I think you're playing cash. That's what you're doing. And that's sort of where I'm at. All right, KC weather. It's a little warmer today, 81. It was down to 72 yesterday. No real winds that are affecting anything. It's sort of going across the field. Lively and Lugo. A terrible matchup for Lugo. I do think that you don't cross him off of the 150 max stuff just because he's a good enough pitcher to maybe just gamble on, but it's really just a gamble. I don't feel like anything here pitching-wise makes a lot of sense or makes a ton of sense. I like both hitting sides in this one. This is my first, okay, we can get a little different. Again, Chicago's probably going to end up on the outside looking in, but they're one I thought about. But I like both sides of this, especially the KC side. So I am okay with it. The only issue, as I always like to point out, is that we have the best bullpen by a significant amount in baseball in Cleveland. It's the one thing that's holding me back from loving it a little bit more. But I like the pricing. I like that you have some cheap options in there. I think this makes perfect enough sense as a 5-man. Just the one thing is that Cleveland bullpen is pretty lights out. So that's my only hesitancy here. But I do like KC and I like Cleveland a little bit, but more on the KC side myself. And like I said, nice 81-degree day, good hitting weather, good enough hitting weather for KC, a little better than yesterday. St. Louis and Milwaukee, boy, I feel bad that I talked some people into Milwaukee because we had some other nice plays. I had the David Peterson last night. I had the Torontos. I just had a little too much Milwaukee to make it a good night. So a little disappointing there. And even in the 12 innings, we couldn't get there. Sonny Gray going in there, Colin Ray on the other side. This is probably a game I stay away from. I tend to like to play Milwaukee a little bit more than most people do. And I tend to like to stack against Ray more than most people do. So I'm open. It's probably going to end up on the outside looking in for me in my big buy and stuff, but maybe I play it in some of the lottery stuff. That's sort of how I've got this. And I have St. Louis as clearly the better stack. I don't mind a bat or two against Gray. I don't really want to mess with Gray as a full stack, but that's just me. All right, moving over to the Yankees in Texas. We'll come back there for Texas last night. Eovaldi against Stroman. Boy, what has happened to Marcus Stroman? This is the cheapest price I can remember since I've been playing DFS on him, and he's actually been better in his last outings. I think he's an interesting, just keep an open mind to pivot. Obviously, he doesn't have huge strikeout upside, keeps the ball on the ground. We've seen Texas be Jekyll and Hyde all year long. You only have the 4K prop for him, but he is only 6,600. If you're looking to spend down, I think you could do worse. He's probably going to be on the outside looking in. Just thought I'd mention him as a pivot. I am not going to get to Eovaldi. In fact, while I'm showing you guys this right now, I'm going to take a quick look on Eovaldi's past. While I do that, because he should have some pretty decent history with these Yankees. Why is this not coming up? Eovaldi. All right. I do want to remind everybody. I would suggest if you're getting ready for football, we've got some great stuff coming. And look, we have everything SaberSim has. We've got Sheets' projections. We've got Goldie's projections. We've got all of my content, all of Rhodey's content, all of Brandon Cruz's content. I'll show all my lineup builds early and everything like that. And I crushed last year. I did really well in the NFL last year. Did not do so well in baseball so far this year, but. Still, I think it's worth taking a look at what our packages are. And remember the promo code NFL24, 24% off the first month, and NFL yearly, 10% off of all yearly packages. And I would challenge any site to be competitive with us, especially with those promos out there. So, all right, I can't get the Eovaldi numbers for some reason. I don't know. You know what it is? I always do that. I always do EA instead of EO, which is really stupid. Should have learned by now. Excuse me. So yeah, it's actually a pretty large sample size, and they've basically torched him, hitting 294. Not a ton of walks, not a ton of strikeouts either. I think this is a spot where we can stack the Yankees at low ownership. I'm probably going to be on that side myself. It didn't work out for me yesterday with them. I think this is a spot where we give Eovaldi a lot of credit as a pitcher. You could hit him especially if you've got really good fastball hitters, and the Yankees have that in spades. So I am going to put the Yankees as one of the stacks that I really like that's off the board. I really think this number is a little too high. Now they're expensive. Maybe they're a little easier to get to on FanDuel, but I am going to try and go out of my ways to get to the Yankees stacks. All right, so let's move on because I look, this slate I can make it really easy and just say, okay, just play the Dodgers. I think that they are the best stack. They're definitely going to be the most popular. I don't see any way that's not going to be the case. This is extreme hitting weather for the Angel Stadium. I don't remember a game starting at night there that was 87 degrees, basically like ever. It's just you don't get that on the West Coast. And shout out to Roth. He does a great job for Roto Grinders. But he even put it in his notes that this is the best hitting. Looks like the best hitting spot of the day. I kind of tend to agree with him. And you've got Canning against the Dodgers. Now let's try to find a reason why this doesn't work. I really don't have a great one for you. Hit line drives right at people. Maybe they're going to end up being my core again. This is my core from core plays I set up from yesterday that I was playing. I don't think I had Freddie. I think I did that this morning. But I am high on the Dodgers. It's just a matter of probably no 5-mans outside of single entry, just because of the ownership is going to be so high. So I am trying to figure this one out as I go because I do really like this spot. I also do like Bobby Miller a little bit. I think there's upside. I keep mentioning to people, I think that you're going to see him explode at some point. He hasn't exploded, but he's actually pitched okay in real life in both of his last starts. I don't mind the gamble on him. He's, again, it's a little bit fringy, but I could see the upside against the Angels, and I do think he's going to have one of these. He's going to shock everybody with like a 10 strikeout game, sort of like Detmers did last night, like out of the blue. However, where I'm not playing him, one way you can get different with the Dodgers is by playing some of the Angels, and I don't mind that at all. Again, Dodgers have a pretty good bullpen. Miller, I think, has extreme talent, but we've seen him get lit up a number of times. He's still young, still figuring it out. And I just wish I liked the stack better. Maybe if they move Cabedas up in the lineup, Ohapi should not be hitting 6th every day. He's hitting like 4th. I do like Zach Neto. I do like the price on Moniak and Chanel. So I'm into both a little bit. I think the Angels are a good contrarian stack, and I just want to balance out some of the chalky stacks that I like with some of the contrarian stuff. So trying to figure that stuff out this morning. All right. Then we've got Kirby and Sears in Oakland. And boy, I thought about this one for a little bit. I do like Kirby here. I think that he's the next one, but he's been really struggling. Like, he has looked like a totally different pitcher since the All-Star break. And it's just a matter of, like, what do we trust? I'm going to trust the long-term in general. I don't think I feel strong enough to make him a core play. I like the Morton Imanaga as more of a safety. However, you're getting Kirby at a little bit lower ownership in what is generally a very plus matchup. He just has not been good lately. And JP Sears has actually been much better than he has been. And JP Sears has put up some numbers lately. So I think Sears is an interesting, again, talk about getting different pitchers, and I'll sort of round this out at the end of my thoughts. But I think that Sears at 7,700 is actually in play and is an interesting contrarian play on this slate. I mean, we've seen him put up, 20 or more or 18 or more in 6 of his last 7 starts. This is a Seattle team with the highest strikeout rate in baseball. I think that we could absolutely play some Sears here. So I just because the ownership where it's at now, I'm sort of talking myself into that side a little more. I also think that you could argue for Seattle again. I'm not going to core tag him, but I think Seattle is definitely in play as a stack against Sears. It is 77 degrees in Oakland. That does, again, we're used to seeing like 62, okay? It's a huge upgrade when it's that big of a difference in that park. So look, Seattle, maybe give a little boost. I don't think I want to stack against Kirby, but honestly, you kind of would have been right to do it a lot of the times lately. So I'm not going to argue with the stack against Kirby either. Maybe a one-off of Lawrence Butler, who just occasionally will drop a 3-home run game in there for you. And again, I'll round it out as we finish up, and we'll run a sim, and then I will let you guys go back to your mornings or afternoons, wherever you are, and I will be live at 6 Eastern. All right. Darvish, again, I've got him at 80 pitches. That's going to make him basically unplayable for me. We bumped him up to 81. Okay. It's a good matchup. He can do that occasionally, but he does sometimes work a little bit too hard. He's coming back, so you're not going to get an extended leash on him. He was struggling before he left. Now, normally you'd say, okay, we'll just play him, and even with the 80 whatever pitches. But this is a big slate. Even though we don't love the pitching options, it doesn't mean like we have to play like Darvish over Kirby. At least Kirby we know is stretched out and will have a leash. I just don't know if that's going to be the case with Darvish today. He only has the 5K prop. I just feel a little bit like it's the wrong thing to do, but I might change my mind on this one a little later today. What I'm a little bit surprised at, and when I first looked here, is you want to do something different hitting, and we're going to have a number of stacks to talk through because nothing stands out astronomically. I don't love playing the stacks in San Diego. You do have some wind blowing in from left, but it's a little warmer, 77 there as well. And this is a good matchup for a good offense. I think we need to mix in some Padres today. So I'm going to be looking at a lot of West Coast teams. I think I can do a late. We'll do a lot of sheet slate swapping and see how it goes, because I'm going to be interested in some of these late night things, and I'm kind of curious how it shakes out. What if my 3-man stack early on is awesome? Do I need to stick with a 5-man of any of these stacks? Can I mix in 3 Dodgers and 2 San Diegos? It'd be interesting to see what kind of stuff some of the sims come up with. So I will be late swapping tonight. I am interested in San Diego. I think this is a good spot, and I think the ownership is a little bit too low. So that's my take. People tend to stay away from these West Coast games. I am going to go after them. And here we have Gallen and Birdsong in San Francisco. I'm good on Gallen tonight. I like Gallen. He's got a decent sample with the history of the San Francisco team. Let me just take a quick look at that. Again, while I take another quick look at that, I'm going to remind you guys to check out our packages. We are some of the most competitive prices in the industry. If you use the discount, we're actually charging less than SaberSim for the highest level SaberSim packages, and you get all of our content as well. Not the least of which is Sheets' projections, which have been like unbelievable all season long for basically every kind of sport. So I just wanted to throw that out there because we love our team that we've got here, but we are expanding, and we want you guys to be a part of it. And we're ready for NFL to attack this thing fully. We're also going to have. I also want to encourage people to watch some of Sheets' process videos. They sometimes might be a little bit long. You might not always want to watch the whole thing, but for something that's already happened. But it's a really good video of how to use some of the SaberSim tools, SaberSim/TrueDFS tools in this case. And I think it's worth checking out. So Gallen versus San Francisco, about what you would think. They've hit him a little bit, 258 hit average, 321 on base, and 754 OPS, pretty high. But he's also got 27 strikeouts, only 97 at bats, so not quite as much experience as I was sort of hoping for. I do like Gallen as my third favorite pitcher, and I actually think that Birdsong is in play just because the price, reasonable enough K expectancy for his price. But I think that if I had to make a third pitcher a priority, it would probably be somewhere around Gallen. I don't think I can quite do it with Kirby just with how he's looked. I'm not as worried about Gallen because you have a rough outing against the Dodgers. Even then, he still had 7 strikeouts. He was awesome in Boston to start before that. I kind of want to make a case for the hottest offense. And again, as I point out every day, I don't think people realize Arizona is the highest scoring team in baseball. And I think they're interesting as well. So I'm interested in a lot of these evening games. To sort of round it out, my top pitchers are Morton, Imanaga, Gallen. Then just trying to consider what to do with the Kirby. I do think Sears, Miller, and Stroman at low ownership are all somewhat interesting. Kansas City, Cleveland, both sides, but a little bit more Kansas City. Just again, warning about the Cleveland awesome bullpen, like all-time great bullpen. Yankees at low ownership feels like a really good thing to do. I wish Eovaldi walked a few more guys, but hey, can't have everything. Maybe it's a mini stack. Maybe you get some Judge and Soto. But this feels like a day where there are going to be some home runs for the Yankees. So I want to get on that. I like the Dodgers, but that's going to be the mega chalk. And then I'm trying to decide, who my other stacks are going to be along. Like I've got the Angels on here. They're a little bit more meh. I feel like San Diego and Arizona are the other ones I'm going to look to. So have plenty of stacks to consider. Nobody who stands out astronomically outside of the Dodgers. And I guess you could argue Atlanta. I guess Atlanta's the obvious one. I just don't want to play the 5-man stacks of the chalk. So I didn't mention Atlanta on this, but they are going to be in the mix for me, just not going to be 5-mans. That's the way I'm approaching it. All right, so we're going to run a sim, and we're going to run it Sheets' way, and I'm going to show you guys just some of the cool things. Just a cool way to run this, and I say it's cool, and part of the reason, look, we can't look at results. Everything should be about process, but it is pretty incredible. You see the results of what Sheets has done. So I am going to import. I'm actually not going to import Goldie's projections yet. Well, actually, you know what? I'm going to import Goldie's projections. Why not? Let's just make it fun. So I'm going to import Goldie's projections. Okay. And I tend to find them fairly, like pretty much more accurate. And let's see. I'm gonna import. I think I'm not gonna. Maybe I do want to do this. Let's do Goldie's. So let's see what we end up with, and then we can compare it with the SaberSim just to get a little different. I mean, remember, nobody but TrueDFS members have Goldie's projections, so you're going to be getting a little bit different just right off the bat. And then we're just going to change a couple of tiny little things that shouldn't really affect much. We'll just do 6 of both of these guys, and let's see what we get in 100 lineups. And we are going to put it in the lottery, which today I didn't even double check what the lottery is, but I should be able to find it. Full count, the bat flip. It's got to be it. All right, so let's see what 100 lineups. And I would, if you're out there watching it, just take a shot at if see what you think we end up with pitching wise, see what you think they end up with initially hitting wise, and then I'll show you some of the things that I want to do to try and maybe get the stack looking a little more like I want, including maybe going in manually and entering in a certain percentage of pitchers. God, I thought I was onto something last night. I had the Heaney-Peterson combo for pitching, and I know other like Sale went nuts too, but those guys were just the same, and they were $5K and $3K cheaper. It's pretty crazy. So I thought I was going to be onto something with that. Just could not get the right pieces of the Dodgers stack to work out in the end. Did the late swap, but to no avail. Not a bad night. Basically, almost got my money back, but lost a tiny bit. Just could have been a really good night. Looked like I was up to a really good start there. I had some Toronto as well. So hopefully we can do a little bit better tonight. Let's see what we got. Should just be another second. Again, if you guys don't mind, please like and subscribe, all that stuff, yada, yada, yada. I don't like selling these things, but I feel like this product the products here are so good. I don't think I need to stretch to sell anything. So we're going to do this. We're going to take a look first. Let's see, stack exposure. You can see it's almost, pretty much the usual, almost all 5.2, 5.3s. They went heavily on the Cleveland. Okay, so they're going against the Lugo. I don't mind it. I mentioned KC and Cleveland as one of the games I want to target. That's what they're getting at first. I am not going to end up with that much of it. I would like to be a little bit more spread out. So we are going to see what we can do once we get this little wheel to stop turning. All right, and should be ready in a moment. Also wanted to point out, guys, we're going to be doing the showdown shows also for NFL. I think the plan is while baseball's still going, we're going to do a baseball one and then jump into NFL at 6:30 Eastern time on Thursday, Friday, Monday, because this week we have a game on Friday. All right, so we're going to go to this. We're going to go large slate. We're going to go to flagship MME. We're going to go to ROA, ROI, and see how that changes things. See how much more spread out we are now. All right, that's kind of interesting. And then let's see what else we are going to do here. I think that's pretty much what I'm going to do for now because I don't want to go into everything that Cheats does and do it worse than he does, which is always going to be the case because he's just got a lot more experience. As he says, I win from the no ball. Like I understand the game situations. He wins because he's better at at creating a great projection set and better at using his projections than most people are. So look, okay, I like Morton a lot and I like Gallen a lot. I don't think I need to have that much of them. I don't feel great about that. So, you know what? I didn't do the one other thing that Cheats likes to do. All right. And this is the one that I sometimes it's the ad metric. Okay. Now, you know what? I'm not going to do this one right now because it's the one I always forget. I'll wait till Cheats comes back to do it. He has a certain strategy for it. I'm not going to try and do his exact thing because I'm going to fail at it. So I'm going to keep going like this and seeing if I can get some differentiating. They're not really giving me much differentiating. So let's say, for example, okay, I like the rest of this list, but I really don't like having no Imanaga here. I would like to get to some Imanaga. So let's put 35% Imanaga, and this is by nature going to change our builds quite a bit. Let's adjust and see what it gives us. So, okay, there we go. It's still keeping, okay, that feels a little bit more manageable to me. Now, I also think that there's, all these guys I mentioned as interesting plays. Maybe I want a little more Bobby Miller because I think the upside is there to be honest, I think the upside is there to dominate the whole slate. So I'm going to add 15% of him and see where that leaves us. And then we're going to go back to our stack types and just take a look at what we've got from all this. So you've got Morton, Gallen, Imanaga. I actually would like to have more Imanaga than Gallen, but I'm okay with defaulting a little bit to SaberSim on some of this stuff. But I am more on the Imanaga side myself, just to throw it out there. I know they're different price tiers. It does allow you to get some more bats in to get Gallen in there. And then getting the Bobby Miller, still having some Kirby while not going overboard on it. Maybe even if you wanted to get frisky, you wanted to say 20%. And Sonny Gray deserves some consideration too. I don't feel very, very strongly about a lot of the pitching today. I do like Imanaga and Morton the best, and that's as far as I've gotten with it. Now, look, you're seeing no Dodger anythings, or hard enough 6%, I guess. And in terms of stack exposure, we've got, look, they've spread out a little bit. It is a 10 gamer, not a 13 gamer like yesterday, but it's still a pretty big slate. Sheets wouldn't have any of some of these other things. I don't think he would do the 4-2-2. He would definitely do the 4-4, and then 5 on its own. I think this is actually reasonable. So you got 85% of the 5-man stacks, and then it's just really what team stacks. So for me personally, based on what we talked about this morning, I want to make sure. And see, I like this Yankees idea, and we got 15% of the Yankees. I like the Angels, but I'd like to get a little bit less of them. So let's do that. I like Arizona. I'd like to have a little bit less. You know what? I'm actually okay with 20% or so. So let's do that. And Seattle, I like a little bit. I am going to put 20% as a cap on them. And then I do want the Dodgers, but I want less of the 5-man Dodgers. So this is what I'm going to do. Again, the Dodger stacks for me are going to be less than 5. And then we also are going to get Atlanta less than 5. I'm not going to where's Atlanta? There we are. All right. So just some ways to play around with this and sort of see what we come up with. And sometimes I will also go into individual hitters and talk through, or go through what I like there. So this makes sense. But what I'm going to do is at 5-man stacks, see how we're not getting the Dodgers much in the 5-man, only 5%. That's probably enough to be okay with, rather than just canceling out of the 5-mans. But the 4-man stacks, I think you're going to see all the Dodgers in the 3-man stacks. Yeah, that's where they ended up using more of them. And obviously the 2-man stacks are going to be the highest for the Dodgers. Yeah, because to get into Shohei and all that stuff. And another thing I might add, if I was going to get, again, we're getting a little far from where Saberson originally had everything, but I don't mind that. Sheets likes it his way. Again, there's different ways to skin a cat, and you see for our individual hitters, nobody getting all that crazy much ownership. Let's take a look at the home run expected rate. This is another one of just awesome tools from Saberson who runs these things. You can see Shohei with, kind of surprising to me actually, that he's that much higher than Judge. Anytime a guy's over 30, I'm always going to have interest in trying to be overweight that player. And I already have interest in the Dodgers anyway. So instead of having 9%, let's put a 20%er in him. I love Judge in this matchup today personally. So I'm actually good with going 20% of him. And it's going to change our builds a little bit. I just want to make sure it doesn't change the correlation of our builds. So I'm playing around with this. I also like Stanton, but I kind of wanted to get to Soto. So Soto's 11% is fair enough, but I'm going to go 15. And then we're going to take another look real quick to see if we have any cheap stolen base option guys. Just sort of playing around and making sure it still all correlates. Turang is the highest. He's not cheap. McCarthy is somewhat affordable. Maybe PCA in a Cub stack, but nobody that really stands out enough. So we're going to apply those, and it's going to try and probably yell at me a little bit. We'll see. No, I think it applied it. So let's see the batters now and the ownership, the exposure. Yeah, see, so it turned us onto a lot more Yankees, which I sort of like. Again, I'm on that side, and we've got Ohtani there, which is going to make it tougher for the pitchers to get the higher price pitchers. So my guess is Morton, Imanaga, and Gallen all went down. I guess Imanaga won't because I have the 35. But I would feel comfortable going to bat with a thing like this, and just make sure the team stacks are what we like. Yankees, Dodgers. I mentioned I love the Yankees as the way to get different. Dodgers, we don't have very many 5-man stacks, which is great, and Arizona, Atlanta. But again, Atlanta, we don't want the 5-mans either. I just don't. So I'll put them at 5%, and we'll just apply that. And I think this is a reasonable build, just at first look. Again, things are going to change. You do this and you optimize as you go because there's so much late stuff. I think it's a really good way to go tonight. So we appreciate everything, guys. Again, tons of awesome tools. Come join us over here. We're starting to take off. We want to keep this momentum rolling. We're going to be adding some new faces in the not too distant future. And we'll get Brody more involved for football because the guy knows his stuff and is a lot of fun. We're going to try and do our shows. We're going to try and do some showdowns. Brandon Cruz, who does great with showdown stuff in general, he's going to be joining us for some stuff. Obviously, Sheets and I will both be here. And looking forward to a really fun, successful football season.